Welcome to LaKeisha's Beauty Land. I am LaKeisha R. Collins, founder of Beautiful Me Ministries, a Christian organization geared towards helping women find healing, wholeness, and healthy self-esteem through Jesus Christ. You can just consider me your hope infuser and your confidence booster. So for today's video, I am continuing the Unfathered part 2. If you missed part 1, you may want to go back and catch the video that I did last week, Unfathered Part 1. In it, I identify the daddy issues that most unfathered daughters face, and just kind of share my personal story of being unfathered. So today, I am moving on to Part 2. There may or may not be a Part 3, but we'll see. So today, in this Unfathered Part 2, I want to talk about that F word. Forgiveness. Forgiveness is not easy, but forgiveness, that dreaded F word, when you've been hurt and disappointed and let down by someone, that F word, is the last thing you want to hear. But today I want to talk about how forgiveness is absolutely necessary. It is absolutely necessary for you to forgive your absent father. Now, before you turn off this video like, girl, my daddy don't deserve forgiveness, just give me a few minutes and hear me out, okay? All right, so what is forgiveness? Forgiveness is defined as to stop feeling angry or resentful towards someone for an offense, flaw, or mistake. Forgiveness is a conscious, deliberate decision to release feelings of resentment or vengeance toward a person or group who has harmed you, regardless of whether they actually deserve your forgiveness. So, based on the definition of forgiveness, we can understand that forgiveness basically means to let go of anger and resentment that you may have towards someone for hurting you. And this forgiveness is not based on whether or not they actually deserve forgiveness. Truth be told, if we are completely honest with ourselves, there are a lot of things that we have done in our lives that do not deserve forgiveness, whether from a person on the earth or whether from God. We have done things, we have hurt someone, we have done some things that, truthfully, we don't even deserve to be forgiven for. But doesn't God always forgive us? Doesn't He always forgive us when we've wronged someone, when we've sinned against Him, when we've done things that we know would be hurtful to people? Hasn't God always forgiven us? And I'm sure we can say that we absolutely don't always deserve to be forgiven. So if we can just kind of keep that in the forefront of our mind when we are considering forgiving an absent father, then in some small way, not necessarily that it'll make it easier, but when we look at it from the perspective of the way God forgives us, it will at least make a little more sense. Won't be easy, because forgiveness in any capacity is never easy, especially when the hurt and the anger and the bitterness was caused by someone who should have loved you, nurtured you, cared for you, and been there for you. When you have that anger or that unforgiveness in your heart, and it's put there by someone who should have been the one protecting you from such hurt, it definitely makes it much, much harder to even consider forgiveness. But I want to tell you why forgiveness is both necessary and important. Okay, so forgiveness, again, it's a decision to let go of hurt, of anger, of bitterness, of resentment, and of thoughts of revenge. Okay, forgiveness is important because it frees you. Yes, forgiveness is not for the other person. Forgiveness is for you, sweetheart. Um, I read somewhere, and I don't know where the quote originated from, but I read that forgiveness is like drinking poison, but waiting for the other person to die. See how that works? Forgiveness is like drinking poison. You drinking poison, but you waiting on the person, the other person that you're mad at to die. It just doesn't work like that. So guess who unforgiveness really affects? You. Because at the end of the day, your absent father, if he is still alive, is living his life. He's gone on about his life, and he is not in the least bit affected by your anger or your resentment or your unforgiveness towards him. He's just not. And I know that that's not easy to hear or easy to understand, but in any capacity where you are holding unforgiveness or anger towards someone, your unforgiveness or your anger towards them is not keeping them up at night. Your anger or your resentment or your unforgiveness towards them is not stopping their paycheck. Your anger or your unforgiveness or your resentment towards them is not stopping them from living their life. You, on the other hand, are angry, you're bitter, you are easily triggered, um, can't sleep at night. Just you are the one affected when you hold on to unforgiveness. And so that's why I say that forgiveness is absolutely necessary, because what happens is when you are holding unforgiveness or just ill feelings and anger and resentment towards someone, it becomes a weight. That unforgiveness becomes a weight that hinders your full progression in life. And you may say, "Oh, I'm doing fine. I ain't gotta forgive him. I'm doing fine without forgiving him. I'm doing fine being mad at him. I'm doing fine resenting him. I'm doing fine angry at him." But are you really? Because that anger and that resentment and that bitterness and that hatred that you have towards your father, you're not able to express it to him. So what's happening is that unforgiveness that you're holding against him, that bitterness and that anger and that hatred is seeping out into your other relationships. So when you blow up at your significant other, or when you blow up at your children, or when you are snappy with your coworkers, that is a byproduct of the unforgiveness that you are holding on in your heart against your father, who is completely unaffected. So why are you doing this to yourself? Why are you holding the purity of your heart hostage? Why are you holding the fullness of your life hostage by holding on to anger and ill feelings that you have towards your absent father? Was he wrong for being absent? Absolutely. Was he wrong for leaving your mother to raise you all by herself? Absolutely. Was he wrong for not being there for you, to steer you, to guide you, to love you, to protect you, to teach you as a father should? Absolutely. Was he wrong? Yes. There's no question. No question that he was wrong in being absent. That he was wrong for completely stepping away from the responsibility of caring for and raising and loving a child that he helped to create. Was he wrong? Yes. Absolutely. Are your feelings valid? Yes. You have every right to be upset with him. You have every right to be angry with him. You have every right. Your feelings are valid. It hurts to be unfathered. It hurts to be rejected by your own blood, by the very person who helped to create you. It hurts. It's a deep, deep hurt. So your feelings toward him are absolutely valid. And when I'm saying that forgiveness for your father is absolutely necessary, I am not in the least bit saying that you disregard what his absence made you feel. Forgiveness is not releasing the person from their offense. Forgiveness is not saying that you are okay with what a person has done to you. Forgiveness is not saying that you have to form a relationship with the person. Forgiveness is not saying that you will ever forget how this person hurt you. Forgiveness is 100% for your emotional well being, your mental well being, and guess what else? Your physical well being. Because when you harbor feelings of resentment, unforgiveness, anger, bitter, like all of those they cousins. All of them are related. Anger, bitterness, unforgiveness, hatred, resentment, they are related. So you can't have unforgiveness without having bitterness. You can't have unforgiveness without having resentment. You can't have unforgiveness without having anger. They are all related. So you holding on to that unforgiveness, you are letting all of that stuff marinate in your heart. Marinate. And it comes out because from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. From the abundance of the heart, your actions come out. You are what you are in your heart. Whatever is in your heart is what comes out of you. So if you having all these heavy and ill feelings in your heart, even though it's for your father, it's coming out towards other people that have nothing to do with what your father did. So this is why forgiveness is so important. Okay, again, unforgiveness is a weight that hinders your full progression in life. And in Hebrews 12:1, we are told to lay aside every weight and the sin that does so easily beset us, that so easily slows us down. Everything that slows us down is not necessarily sin. Some things in our life is just a weight. Unforgiveness is a weight. Unforgiveness is a heavy emotion. Unforgiveness is a heavy spirit. And again, it brings all these cousins with it. It brings that resentment. It brings that bitterness. It brings that hatred. It brings that wanting to get revenge. It brings all of that with it. And so all of that becomes a weight, and it slows you down from progressing in life, from becoming the fullness of who God created you to be. You can't fly high with weight. Even when you get on an airplane, your luggage cannot exceed a certain weight. And it's just the same in life. If you want to fly high, if you want to progress and grow in life, there's a certain amount of weight that you got to drop in order to be able to move forward. When you're running a race, when a runner is running a race, they don't have no extra weight on them. They don't have no extra clothes on them. They don't have no extra accessories, no extra nothing. Because weight slows you down, and unforgiveness is a weight. It's heavy. It bogs you down. It brings depression. It brings sadness. All of that stuff that you are just holding on to because you mad at your daddy. And he couldn't care less. 9 times out of 10, he couldn't care less. So why are you allowing your feelings towards him to hinder the goodness of your life? The unforgiveness that you harbor against him makes you put up barriers, makes you put up a guard, makes you put up walls. You can't even fully embrace somebody else loving you. Your significant other, probably you can't even allow your significant other to fully even love you the way that you're supposed to be loved because you're holding on to unforgiveness towards your father. So when these daddy issues rise up, you take it out on your husband. You take it out on your boss. You take it out on your children. You take it out on your friends. You take it out on complete strangers. You have no patience. You always on edge. You always snappy. It's because you are harboring these ill feelings. But you got to let that stuff go. At some point, you have to let it go. And I know I hate We hate to hear this particular phrase, but it comes to a point where you got to get over it. You just got to get over it. If your father was absent, what can you do to change it? What can you do to change it? Nothing. So why give him control over your emotions? Give him control over your heart. Why? Forgiveness. You got to forgive him. Not for him, not because he deserves to be forgiven, but because you deserve to be free. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to have healthy relationships. You deserve to just have your heart free of the poison of unforgiveness and bitterness. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting or excusing the harm done to you or making up with the person who caused the harm. Forgiveness merely brings a kind of peace that helps you go on with life. Again, it's laying aside that weight. It's laying aside that weight. Because that's what unforgiveness is. It's a weight. And also forgiveness, if you are a Christian, if you are a follower of Christ, then forgiveness also clears your line of communicating with and receiving from God. For one, we are commanded to forgive. In Matthew 18:21-22, then Peter came to him and said, Lord, how often shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? Up to 7 times? Jesus said to him, I do not say to you up to 7 times, but up to 70 times 7. That's a lot of forgiveness. 70 times 7. That's a lot of forgiveness. But we are commanded to forgive because Matthew 6:14-15. For if you forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but I want to be sure that when I go to God and I need forgiveness, that it's not going to be held up because I'm holding forgiveness from somebody else. How can I want from God what I won't even give to someone else? I know. He don't deserve it. I know. His absence hurts you in ways that you are still trying to cope with. I know. I get it. I was you. I held on to unforgiveness to my father for 30 plus years. And for years, I dealt with anger and frustration and bitterness and depression because I was harboring resentment. I was harboring unforgiveness. I was holding on to that pain and I would not let it go. But that emotional pain that you're holding on to, although you think it only is affecting you emotionally or you think it's not affecting you at all, your emotional well-being is directly attached to your physical well-being. A lot of times, like headaches, panic attacks, stress, is directly affected to your emotional well-being. And so if you're finding yourself physically ill, headaches all the time, just tired all the time, a lot of it is connected to your emotional well-being. It's connected to your spirit. And because you're holding that poisonous spirit of unforgiveness in your heart, it's literally seeping into your body. It's seeping and putting toxins in your body. All because you're mad at your father. Let that hurt go, sis. You got to let that hurt go. For you. That's the thing that I want you to get. Forgiving him is not for him. It's not for him. He's still going to have the answers to God for why he abandoned you. He still has to hold responsibility for his actions. You're not letting him off the hook. You're not releasing him from the hurt. You're not releasing him from the offense. You are releasing yourself from the bondage of the pain that it is continuously causing you. It's time for you to be free, sis. You got to let that go. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. I want you to understand that unforgiveness in no way minimizes your pain. It does not minimize the wrong done to you. But again, it is to set you free from it. Romans 12:19 says this: do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, it is mine to avenge. I will repay, says the Lord. God gonna deal with your daddy. God gonna deal with him and however God sees fit to deal with him for not, taking care of his responsibility. He's gonna have to answer to God for that. So just let God deal with him. You move towards healing. You move towards freeing yourself from the cycles of daddy issues. Because you can think that you're over something, but if you are still holding unforgiveness towards the person that caused that pain, then you're not over it. You're not healed from it. It's just suppressed. And things that are packed down, eventually they start to rise again. Suppressed pain always reappears. Always. So you can put a Band-Aid. You put a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound, guess what? It's still going to bleed out. So you disregarding or just stepping over the fact that you are still holding unforgiveness towards your father, guess what? That pain's still going to seep out. You still going to bleed out. You still going to bleed out. Until you go with your gunshot wound to the hospital, get that bullet out, get yourself stitched up. That's the only way that it's going to stop the bleeding. That's the only way that it's going to put you in a position to heal. So until you get that pain, pull it up, pull it out, and forgive your father, that's the only way that you're really going to bring yourself to a place of being able to fully heal. Healing is your portion, sis. Healing is your portion. A pure spirit, a pure heart is your portion. It is not God's desire for you to walk through life angry, upset, bitter, mad at your father. It's towards your father, but because he's not around, it's coming out towards everybody else. You might think it's not directly connected, but it's directly connected. It's directly connected. Directly connected to the fact that you won't forgive. And so I want you to work towards forgiveness. No, it's not easy, but guess what? You can do all things through Christ who gives you strength. God will give you the strength to forgive your father. Not because it doesn't hurt, not because he wasn't wrong, but because you simply deserve to be free from that hurt, free from that bondage, free from that weight, free from the way it affects your relationships, free from the way it affects your emotions, free from the way it hinders your life. You deserve that freedom. You deserve to be healed and whole and emotionally healthy. You deserve that. Don't allow your absent father and the anger that you have towards him to rob you of that. Your feelings are valid. Your feelings are valid. They are. They truly are valid. But unforgiveness only affects you. It only affects you. Doesn't affect your absent father in the least bit. He's still sleeping at night. He's still getting up every morning and going about his day-to-day life. So he's not affected. Your unforgiveness towards him ain't hurting him at all. So you may feel like holding unforgiveness from him is affecting him in some way, but it's not. You are the only victim of your unforgiveness. Free yourself. Free yourself. Forgive your absent father. You can do it. I know you can. Forgive him. Forgive him. So you can have peace in your life. And so that that cloud of hurt and that cloud of resentment no longer just looms over you, no longer affects your relationships, no longer affects your emotions, no longer affects how you interact with men, so that it no longer affects you, sis. I'm telling you, there's a whole life of healing and healthiness and wholeness that awaits you when you forgive. So forgive your father and be free. Stay tuned, and next week I will walk you through the steps of moving towards forgiving your absent father. You can do this. Thanks for watching. Now do me a favor. Like, subscribe, turn on your notifications, leave me a comment, and share. See you next time.